So you want to take out a helicopter. I'll warn you, it's a thankless job. You won't get many points or kills, but it does help your team quite a bit. Question being, if you're stuck with just the Engineer's lock-on launchers, which one should you choose? The Stinger or the Igla? In Battlefield 3, they were essentially the same weapon. However, in Battlefield 4, they have some notable differences, and in some situations, one may be preferable to the other, or you may just prefer how one operates to the other. Let's get into some of those differences and the similarities between them. I do need to caution that this is based on the released game, and DICE really likes to change their lock-on weapon balance. They made many dramatic changes through Battlefield 3, and then they didn't pick up in Battlefield 4 where they left off in 3. Wouldn't be surprised to see more changes. A big thanks to Labby over on the Synthic.com forums for the detailed launcher stats about speed and acceleration and whatnot, and for Captain Cookie Crisp over on Reddit for confirming the damage numbers with me. He posted up what he was seeing and it matches what I'm seeing, so I'm fairly confident there's no tricks going on. Anyway, let's get to it. Alright, so what's the same between them? Starting ammo, 5 apiece, lock-on time, 1 second, reload time, 3.6 seconds, mobility hits for each impact, makes it harder for the pilot to control for a second or so. Damage is the same, 30 to transport helicopters, 45 to attack and scout helicopters. Now for the differences. The lock-on range, the Stinger, 350 meters, Igla, 450. On the large maps of Battlefield 4, you're going to often notice that the helicopter is more than 350 meters away, and so the Igla is going to have a little bit better shot of getting that lock on. The Igla accelerates faster than the Stinger and has a higher top speed. I went ahead and did some math and made some plots, and we're going to ask, is this actually going to make a difference to us, practically speaking? I had to make some assumptions on how the missile AI worked and how the in-game variables translated into mechanics. I went for just the simplest interpretation and assumption I could, just to keep things easy instead of making different assumptions, which quite possibly could be wrong as well. But this is a pretty good guess about how things work. So I've got two charts here. First is for a helicopter directly overhead, just vertical distance on the x-axis, time it takes to get there on the y-axis. You see the Igla is a little bit faster, so it's below the Stinger. And yeah, there's a little bit of difference. And if you're out towards the edge of their lock-on range, you might notice a very slight difference in speed, but you're not going to watch one of those things flying up in the air and be like, oh, I can tell which one it is based on how fast it's moving. I don't care how much practice you've had, you're not going to notice just based on how fast the missile is going which type of launcher it is. And then for a low-flying helicopter, there's a little bit more separation here between the Stinger and the Igla, but still not very significant. Yeah, at the edge of the range, yeah, there's probably a little bit less than a second difference between that 350 mark for the Stinger and the 450 mark for the Igla, but you're not going to watch them flying across the sky and be like, I can tell which one is which. How fast they move is not a significant factor in your choice of which one to use. So you're probably wondering what the big difference between horizontal and vertical is. Well, that's gravity. Normally things would experience a negative 9.8 meters per second down, but the launchers are kind of weird. The Stinger gets a 25 meters per second squared up, and the Igla gets a 20. So if nothing else is going on, they just keep floating, rising up, up, up until they go out of the map, basically. This also means they're not quite line-of-sight launchers. They'll pop up at first, and that's the whole question about how the AI works. So you don't want to fire them when you're under an overhang. Make sure you get them out there far enough that they don't just hit the roof over your head and not head towards your helicopter target. So finally to the big critical difference. Stingers are lock-on, fire, and forget. Iglas are lock-on, fire, and continue locking on, and you need to stay locked on within that 450 meters until your missile arrives at its target. The upside of that being, if your Igla loses targeting, you can change targets or reacquire targets mid-flight. And so yes, you can lock on, fire, reload, lock on again, and that first missile won't have left the map yet. It'll be about 300 meters in the air if you do things as fast as possible, and it'll come back down and hit your target, and then the next one you'll fire will have come over and hit your target, and hopefully there'll be a second or two difference between the two, so you'll get two almost back-to-back mobility hits on your helicopter, doing 90 damage to the attack and scout helicopters, or 60 to a transport. There's a pretty good chance you're going to bring it down, though, based on that damage and the back-to-back mobility hits. Remember, they get an idea where you are when you start trying to lock on. When that missile pops up, it's pretty obvious where you are, then you're standing out in the open reloading for 3.6 seconds, locking on again, and so they get plenty of time to come hunt you down. Maybe you can get around their flares, but if they can kill you before that missile hits, there's no target lock, and you don't do anything. So against attack helicopters, Are you feeling lucky, punk? And against a good scout helicopter pilot, you're probably going to, really good chance you're going to die before that first missile hits. But if they're distracted with something else, hey, maybe it'll work out. I'd definitely take the Igla for transport helicopters, be really worried about passengers repairing, and so those back-to-back mobility hits be really good against that. Against the more threatening offensive choppers, well, you're pushing your luck, but it might be worth it. I don't have much experience with jets, but given the fact that you have to maintain lock-on and your range is only 450 meters, I don't think the Igla is your best bet for jets. You're probably better off trying to get a quick lock-on and launch with the Stinger. It seems we have a lot of inexperienced pilots, understandably, and if you just hold the lock for a second or two, a lot of pilots will deploy flares. Especially useful with the Stinger, just get them to pop flares without having to fire. If you wait a couple seconds for locking on and they don't fire, go ahead and shoot, and then start the whole flare, lock on again, that whole mess. Because what else are you going to do at that point? I'm going to say that the Stinger is easier to use and probably more consistent, even if it doesn't have quite the same damage spike that the Igla can provide. And certainly not having to maintain that lock yourself means you can spend more time reloading and locking on again to shoot more missiles, meaning you can put out more damage faster with the Stingers, because the missiles do the same amount of damage apiece. So in the end, try both out, but with the Igla, give it a try with the reload and relock on trick. It's kind of cool, kind of fun to see two missiles fly into one helicopter just while you're holding the sights there. It's going to be fun. Anyway, try both out, see how they work for you. I've been Time Itself, and happy helicopter hunting. I'll see you guys next time.